Okay, I live a pretty friggin' blessed life. No, I don't own it. I rent it. But here I am. I'm about to go for my morning paddleboard. My beautiful clients, a couple, are up in the house, just getting settled. And this is where I get to fill up my cup first so I can do an incredible job for them. And it's an edge for me. I am so much more comfortable going into take care of you mode and make sure all your needs are met mode and just put all my needs aside. And it takes for me anyways, a certain amount of courage to go into the kitchen right now, and one of them is awake, and just say, I'm going to go take an hour and go out on the boat or out on the paddleboard. So I'm being, I guess, like a role model. Like, I'm being honest that it's uncomfortable. I'd rather be caretaking. But I also want to show them what it takes to courageously put ourselves first, to fill up our tank first, to put our oxygen mask on first, so that I can be my best self for them. And I like that. I don't know if you're a parent, but we're responsible for them. They don't survive unless we take care of them. And for me, that's bleeded into being responsible for my clients as opposed to responsible to them, which is a very different energy. The responsible for them, I collapse over. I come from empty. I get attached to the result. But when I'm responsible to them, I'm standing up tall. I'm whole. They're whole. I'm not seeing anybody as broken. Nobody needs to be saved. And it really makes them feel seen and honored in a great way. And it encourages me to be in my body and be in my wholeness and be in my groundedness and be in my truth. And we all mature and arise together. So I'm still learning. And as you go into this, a big fish just jumped. I hope it was a fish. I don't know what else it might be. But because around here, not this lake, there are crocodiles or alligators, or I don't know the difference. But anyways, not this lake. But as you go in to watch this beautiful podcast, another edge for me is coaching somebody older than me. Now, I know we all nobody's better than anyone else. And some of us are more evolved on a developmental path, but nobody's better. So clearly Rosie is badass, family law litigator. Wish I knew her, how many years ago in my 15-year custody battle or whatever it was. So clearly she's developmentally way beyond me. I don't even know the first thing. And as a coach, for me to be humble and own that I know what I'm doing and I'm really good at this. And she's designed for being an extraordinary coach. And she is an extraordinary coach, Allana Pratt method certified coach. And she's also moving her career after decades from more of a litigation into more of mediation, for which I'm so inspired by her. And I got to meet her in person after knowing her for, I think, 4 years when I was in Australia, and we got to do a PSI journey. And to be in your 70s and be open to cutting edge ways that we can literally rewire our brain and heal our autonomic nervous system, where you've been coping well with a better mindset, but that's not healing. That's just improvement or relief. And for her to go for it and have such incredible results was nothing short of breathtaking and such a deep, deep honor for me. So enjoy this podcast.
Welcome to Intimate Conversations. Become the one. Intimacy is an inside job. Hello, delicious people. Welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations with one of my favorite goddesses on this entire planet, from the other side of the planet, Rosie from Adelaide. Way back when I went to Adelaide when I was probably 21, 22, who knew that one of my most favorite people on the planet, Rosie, is from there. This month on the podcast, we're talking about from head to heart. It's one of my Allana Pratt method processes. And it really talks about what if beliefs are just made up? You can believe anything, but deeper than the belief is a knowing inside of your heart. that no one and no thing can shift. So we're going to be talking about sort of weaving that into our conversation today. I want you to know that Rosie is an Allana Pratt method certified coach. She's been working. How many years have we been together, my love? Like 4, 5, something?
At least 4. I think 4.
I think 4. Yeah. Yeah. And she's a huge gift to my life and my clients' life and my community's life. And we thought we would just give you an example of what it's like to be on this journey of finding me, doing this work, and how it shifts your life on the inside, shifts your body, shifts your relationships, shifts your what's possible for the future. Because she is most certainly moving into we call it her renaissance, the renaissance of your life. So, honey, thank you so much for taking the time. You're on the other side of the planet. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you in my life. I remember you were introduced by another colleague to me. Even before that, how did you, because you're a family, you're an attorney with family law, you're a litigator. How did you even get interested in coaching or personal growth? Like how did that even spark in your life? I don't even think I've asked you that before.
I think I reached a point in my life when I was feeling burnt out.
Yeah.
I was not enjoying work,
Yeah.
and so that was what brought me to coaching. But long before that, I became interested in personal growth after I separated, and that was I separated in my early 50s, and I became very interested in personal growth then. But the real impetus for coaching came a bit later than that, when, as I say, I'd been doing my work for so long, and I just felt burnt out, and there was something more. So I received coaching, and during the coaching, my coach said to me I would make a great coach,
Uh-huh.
and I thought it'd take too long to get qualifications and things like that, but she encouraged me. And from there, I had a couple of certifications, and I was into more performance coaching. But the interesting thing for me was that coaching, when I went through my own coaching session, it gave me a renewed relationship with my work. And so, yeah, and I started to experience my life differently. And
Wow.
when it really was a change in beliefs, a change in thinking about my work, and also becoming more present, stopping the spinning and becoming more. And that's when I started my getting coaching certifications and dabbling with coaching, although my primary career was still my lawyer work.
Yeah.
But my long-term view was that I would ultimately change a career path down the track somewhere.
Amazing. So when you first started coaching, it was renewed beliefs, different points of view, enlivened what you were still doing with work. Because to me, this podcast, right, we're going from our head to our heart. So if the head is saying, I suck, life sucks, or any version of doubting yourself or what have you, shifting to, I'm okay, I'm enough, life is good, what else is possible? Like shifting the mind is a really great start. Shifting your mindset to something more positive is a really great start. How did you start to discover, oh my God, there's even more than that? There's this thing called like feelings. There's my body. There's my knowing. How did that shift begin?
That really didn't begin until I started working with you. I think I intellectualized or understood from here out.
Yeah.
The concept of your feelings, understanding your emotions, etc. But I just don't think for many, many, many years I actually did that. I was thinking it. I was thinking my feelings or vocalizing my feelings, but really bypassing actually feeling them. But I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. But I think when I first started the work with you, I did not know how to feel properly.
Right.
Superficially, I did, but not really what I was really feeling, because if any of those were negative or I didn't want to feel, I just bypass and go straight into feeling what I was supposed to feel. So I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
When we started work, I haven't asked you some of these questions. It's really fun. Why did you decide to work with me?
Uh, um, it was the way my colleague introduced you to me, so he told me about you. He said you were an intimacy. Well, first of all, he spoke your praises, and I respect his views about different coaches. And he said, one thing I need to tell you, she's an intimacy expert, but why I'm working with her is to develop the intimacy with myself.
Right.
I thought, well, whatever, I'll give her a try. And then I listened to an interview. I can't remember who it was that interviewed you, and I was very impressed with how you responded to him. And so you had that in that interview, you had the combination of she knows what she's doing, so it appealed to the intellectual part.
Yeah.
But then there was this I don't know, there was just another energy about it. And I thought, oh, well, if my colleague likes you, I may as well just follow up and see whether I like you or not, and like working with you. And it was just very different work. And yeah, I think it was his introduction. I valued his opinion, then listening to that interview. Yeah. And then it was.
Well, I know I just adored you right away. And I'm so glad we started working together. When was it in our journey together where you started to actually value or see the value in learning how to feel and love the parts of you that were sad or mad or scared or what have you, as much as you loved the parts of you that were joyful and powerful and all the other parts? When did that start to shift? Like, oh, this work is actually, I didn't think it's not what I came for necessarily, but oh my God, do I ever desire this stillness inside?
I don't think I think I really connected in a more deep way once I started the coaching training with you.
Okay.
Yeah, before that, I was feeling it was such new work to me, and
Yeah.
you were doing processes I'd never come across. So I was
Yeah.
kind of thinking, I had this weird way of I'm the client and feeling and being the client, but then there was this other part of me. What's she doing? Where did this come from? So it took me a while to be fully present as a client. But when I did your coaching training, because I was exposed to it more frequently,
Yeah.
and for me, having a bit more understanding about the processes just helped me. That said, it still took me quite a while into the coaching training before I actually started to feel.
Yeah.
You know, when we were doing those exercises of feeling, now with what I have experienced, I understand I really wasn't feeling still.
Yeah.
Still very much in my head. And of course, I started a bit behind the eight ball because each day I have to go into my head with my work and
Yes.
maintain, when I say a facade, you know, I'm there for the client. So whatever's going on for me has to take a back step.
Right.
And so I'm, you know, constantly doing that. So practicing that, which I need to let go in my personal life and in my other world.
Yeah. What were some of because I mean, it's fun to feel joy,
Mm.
eroticism, bliss, peace. Oh, those are fun to feel, but it's not fun to feel scared, uncertain, self-hatred, rage, sadness. Like those aren't fun to feel. As you began to get the hang of feeling, how did the shift occur where you saw the benefit of learning to be in your body, the benefit of feeling these things that were not appropriate at work and maybe not even appropriate growing up, or that you'd shoved away for decades? When did you start to feel the value of feeling?
You spoke about feeling joy and happy and all those things. I actually realized that although I was telling myself I was feeling joy and feeling happy, that the level of joy and happiness I was feeling was only to the extent that I was also allowing myself to feel the other side of that, which was the fear or the sadness or whatever.
Brilliant.
And yeah, and while I was telling myself about joy, my feeling, my level of that feeling was quite low. So I was
Yes.
talking myself up, it's the mindset stuff, talk
Yeah.
yourself up.
Yeah. It's like a state.
And
Yeah.
yeah. But then when we did some of the exercises where you were taking us into, you must feel the negative feelings, because if you resist them, then they remain there. So you
Yeah.
took us to those, and when I actually started to feel those, I understood that on the other side, the joy and the happiness and the more positive responses, in terms of what I was actually feeling, was sort of the same level as that.
Mm.
And it's the same level as allowing myself to feel the negative feelings, and it really wasn't for a very, very long time when I was taken to the points at which, when you'd done your processes, I could get in that state of stillness and
Yeah.
total presence,
Yeah.
and not then even feeling anything. It wasn't a numbness. I was just so still
Yeah.
that there was nothing else about that except for that. So even pains that I had, I just felt nothing in that time, but it just this stillness. And once I was able to experience that, then
Yeah.
it started, the quality of, or the level or the depth of feeling started to change, because I'd got to that point of stillness where there was nothing else, none of those in that moment, none of the identity constructs or none of the anxieties or whatever, because I was totally present and still. And
Yeah.
from that place, I could then go into what was really going on for me, because there was nothing else controlling it. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying the feelings were uncontrollable. What I'm saying, it was my ability to feel them had been restored.
Yeah.
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 And until I actually experienced that, as I said, intellectually, I could tell people about it, but it wasn't until I experienced it that I could really tell people about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like we know in our body, right? Or we feel in our heart, and we just think in our head. I love what you're saying too. I'm gonna butcher it, but there's The Prophet by Cahill Gibran speaks of like the deeper the well of sorrow or sadness that you can feel, that is the same well that you can now fill with joy. You can feel more joy if you allow yourself to feel the sadness. What was it like to stop judging you as wrong and bad or weak or broken to be sad or mad or afraid? How did your self-worth shift, or how did you connect with, around here we call it like little you? How did you start to have a different sense of like confidence, not based on your accomplishments and achievements, which are amazing, but when we judge like half of who we are is bad and the other half happy, joyful is good, we're hating ourselves like half of our life. What happened to your sense of worth or self or peace for no reason when you started to have more compassion and kindness for these previously thought of as negative emotions?
A lot of the time we base our self-worth on what other people are saying or what the externals show. So we're looking for proof of that, you know, the qualifications I have, what sort of house I have, or what car I drive, or what
Yeah.
label I'm wearing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and it was when I was able to, as I say, become still and then understand or allow then room for compassion without the judgment.
Yeah.
While I was still working out there, judgment worked first, and in many ways, all those things like compassion and all those you know, those sorts of feelings came to me actually through that filter instead of me getting centered, still, just becoming fully present. So then they came from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were pure. It's what I would call pure, unfiltered.
Totally.
And it didn't mean the feelings were I got out of control or anything. It was just when I did allow the deep sadness or the deep regret or resignation, those negative, when I say negative, though on that side of the spectrum,
Yeah.
it actually didn't take me a long time to get out of them and move and just move on and process and move on to a more, what I would call, empowered or joyful way
Yeah.
of being. It doesn't mean that things aren't hard. It doesn't mean that you know, there's no friction out there or whatever, but just I just felt differently about being in that world. Not sure that I expressed it all that well, but you know.
No, it's different. Like there's a state that we have to achieve to have a better attitude about what's challenging, but to me it's like a speed bump. We're having to try to be compassionate or try to be in a good mood or try to look on the bright side. And that's the operative word, try, because there's this huge speed bump of unintegrated subconscious emotions that we've deemed as wrong and bad, and we don't want to go anywhere near. And by resisting them, they grow, which makes an even bigger speed bump that we need to get over. But when we integrate them into, I love how you use the word stillness. It's not happy. It's not sad. It's not numb. It's just everything's quiet. There's no more resisting. Like the speed bump just goes flattens, and you're present to everything, And to me, that is, as you just said, from the inside out, natural, pure self-love, self-compassion, but also creativity, curiosity. And also it's like we can hear the divine, we can hear our intuition. In this, I'm curious, in this process, we've known each other for like 4 years. When did the first spark of what's next? Like, oh, I could be a coach. Oh, I could be a mediator. Oh, there's a whole other world for me after 40 plus years of being an attorney. Do you feel this ability to go in stillness and listen to your instincts and intuition? It's different than like a heady, well, that's a good idea, I'll just go do that, everybody else is doing it, as opposed to, this is my truth, this is what's real for my soul. How did that start to arise congruently with these processes?
Yeah. Well, for a very, very long time, I'd look beyond what I would do when I finished law, because I'm not the sort of person that will just retire and do nothing.
Right.
And these things, what would I do? What would I do? But they're only there, it's floating around, not necessarily as a reality. And I was too busy doing my work and keep with that in life to really focus on that. But it was when I started, and there's always been a creative side of me that I haven't really allowed to come through. I mean, I'm creative within the work that I do, but I'm talking about writing or art or doing, you know, different things. But that was over there. So it was really when I started this work, I knew I had a lot more work to do to get to the point where I could actually do those things.
Yeah.
superficially I could do those things. I had the superficial skills, but I mean, I like to do something from really well and that it comes from within me, not just something I've just learned and sits on the top of what I
Yeah.
might be pushing down.
Yeah.
So it was really when I started integrate some of this work, I actually realized I had quite a bit more work to do before I would be the sort of mediator or the sort of coach I really want to be,
Yeah.
because I'd be operating, I guess, from a different plane, a different level, than if it was just book learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I started to get into the stillness, then I realized the level of self-editing I'd been doing all my life.
Oh.
And yeah, you know, self-editing in what I said, in how I looked or what I presented, not letting people into my core, you know, so this, but also in my work, I'm constantly editing my work because it has to be correct and get rid of excessive words or ambiguous words and things like that. So, I was kind of doing that in my life. But when I realized what needed to be done to be a really, really good coach or mediator, you have to know yourself, you have to be yourself, and you have to let the work come from within. You know,
Yes.
what that we said, let the wisdom, you know, let the wisdom come from me, you
Yeah.
know, from within me. Doesn't mean you don't do all the work to get your knowledge, but
Yeah.
the delivery of that knowledge that has to come from within you.
Yeah. It's an embodied knowing, not book smarts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, let's go back to the time when you've had your own business for, what was it, 40 years?
Close on. Yeah, close on.
Close-ish. And then you move to this particular firm now, and then the next phase will be mediation. To me, when we live in our head, so we're talking about from head to heart, right? When I live in my head, I've got to do it right, look good. My identity is very important. What you think of me is imperative. Like, and when I'm dropping into my heart, it would be nice if you like me, but it's not required for me to know who I am and be free. Right? How did this work tie into your ability to let go of what you built for so many years and different employees, and move into this phase and the next phase? To me, you on some level had to loosen your grip on I am my job, I am my title, I am my identity, to I am that I am, right? So how did that shift for you?
When I started to get deeper into this work and
Yeah.
realized when we were doing the identities we become, I realized that I was very tied to this identity.
Yeah.
And of course, as a young I was a migrant. Having an identity of a lawyer was very important because we were looked down on when we first arrived.
Right.
So I was very tied to that. And it was when I started to realize the different identities and the constructs that I was living by and
Yeah.
getting to the stillness, the presence, that I realized it was an identity. And it was more about being someone in the eyes of others instead of being someone in the eyes of myself.
Right. Right.
And when I was able to just be still and present, and in moments when those things didn't matter,
Yeah.
then I realized that I could let that go. And then it's just a matter of doing practical things, you know, to live your life and earn money and things like that. But I realized that I could let that go. And so the first part of that was letting go the firm that I created that was named after me, and then, you know, merging so that my clients would be taken care of by someone else as I backed away from the legal practice and started to do more mediation work. But
Right.
then things like knee replacement surgeries got in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, all the sins of my sporting days coming to visit me.
Uh-huh. But you're moving in the right direction. And it seems that another phase of letting go of the identity is also letting go of the outcome.
Yeah,
The identity is very attached, that it has to look a certain way by a certain time. So even though you've made the transition to this other, merging with this other firm, you're also letting go of attachment to when the shift occurs, and you're just being present to what's so, which is my knee needs to be replaced, and now the other one. But that's going to let you dance into the next phase of your life.
yeah. But you see, the other good thing about that is that it might sound like I'm delaying, but I'm still very functional at the work I do. And I think I bring a different level of energy to that work, even though it does sit in the confines of legal advice. But the interesting thing is that for me is that while I'm doing all this, I'm still learning. I'm learning more and more. And I think the learning about the feelings can't be done until you feel them yourself.
Yes. 100%.
The learning, and then the way of, when I say teaching, guiding others through that
Yeah. Yeah.
has a different quality because you live it yourself, and in the moment of you guiding them, you are fully present and fully yourself, rather than just doing it from automatic pilot.
Right. Right. Going deeper, when we talk about feelings, there's the feelings we're aware of, that we know we're pushing away, that we've deemed as bad, that we start to learn how to feel, integrate, process, bring into stillness, bring into presence. And then there's a whole other dimension of subconscious that we don't even know is in there. And so you started to watch, you've always watched me be vulnerable and credible, like as a coach, and going through the coach training. What happened after you went through the coach training was I started to go through my whole PSI journey and discover all of this. I mean, I've been at this for 20 years, but I hadn't scratched really the surface of what was going on under the hood, shall we say, subconscious. And then I was just in Australia at the recording of this about, my God, it was just last month, wasn't it? That we finally got to be together live in Australia. And you went through one of these journeys with me. What was that? Anything you want to let me know about that? Trepidation leading up to it, what the actual experience was, what's happened after, people's feedback who'd known you for years, right after the journey. Like, what was that like for you?
Well, first, when you started to first talk about PSIs, I thought, oh, well, they're not for me. I'm not interested in that. But we'll see how people progress. And you went through it, and then I heard a number of your clients who were part of our inner circle go through it and talk about it. And I noticed some quite significant changes in them.
Yeah.
Changes in their capacity to, I think it was a level of understanding about themselves that showed through in the sessions after they'd been through the PSI journey. So before that, they'd have their stories that would go, and I was like that, the same stories. In different iterations of the same stories in different parts of their life. And I know I did that. And then I saw after the PSIs they had a different level of understanding, and also then there's the things that were issues for them were articulated at a different level. And also they were the less, when I say mundane, they went deeper. And so, but still, no PSI, because for me, I was always worried about, the brain, what you do to your brain and all of that. But then somewhere along the line, I thought, maybe I should do one, but I had a lot of apprehension about it. And then different ones, different members of our group spoke to me about their experiences, and I respected each of those people with whom I spoke.
Yeah.
And in the end, I thought, oh, I can only try this. But why I would only consider it is because I would have a guide.
Yes.
Would have someone with me guiding and
Yeah.
taking care of me,
Yeah.
because, it was something I've never, ever thought of for myself. I'd hear lots of people talk about it, but not for myself.
Right.
And so I did that. And then it was really interesting meeting you after all those years. And also one of the other members of our group, I hadn't met her before, but only seen her on screen.
Yeah.
And I think I described you both as being so much softer than you appear on the screen, like it was more like just real.
Yeah.
I mean, on the screen you're real, but you're still on the screen.
Yeah.
And it was really amazing to meet someone that you've known intimately or they know you, for years, and never actually been in their presence.
Yeah. It was so wild. It was so awesome.
Yeah. So that was a wonderful experience too. That was like meeting someone that you have a relationship with, when I talk like a relationship of sharing feelings, of thoughts, and all of that.
Vulnerable depth. Yeah.
And meeting them as a human being, a real three-dimensional human being, is very interesting, because I think you feel the vibrations a bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And you saw me in a real vulnerable state. The plan was to get there ahead of you, to get all the grocery shopping done, to get all unpacked and to welcome you. And my flights were delayed and my luggage was lost and you got there before me, I think. Like it wasn't the plan. So for me to show up not together and to be so vulnerable and then to lead you through this journey, that was really big. I was concerned maybe I wouldn't have enough energy or what have you, but it was the work that we do in these PSIs in practice, that this flight was missed, all these things that happen. And I could react, or I could go to that place of stillness and respond and handle what was in front of me for 2.5 days and very little sleep, so that by the time I got to you, I could do a great job. Right. That was amazing.
My observation was that it was remarkable how, by you not offering resistance to any of those things, you preserved your energy.
Correct.
Because resistance does use up an awful lot of energy. And so you could have had a really bad attitude, or you could have had gratitude, I suppose.
Yeah.
And how you sailed through those, because I've travelled to your part of the world, and I know what it's like when you've been, in the air for a long time, and then there's also these glitches along the way.
Yeah.
How exhausting it is. And then, but you you were exhausted. You were exhausted, but you weren't depleted.
Thank you.
It's a difference.
That's a great distinction. Yeah. Yeah. There's something that
I didn't feel the depletion. Sorry to have talked over you.
No, not at all. That's a really great distinction that this work allows for, is that I didn't react and I didn't get depleted, and I was tired. That's for darn sure. But there's something about when I go into these PSIs where I consciously say, I'm the hollow bone. I'm the empty vessel. Divine, use me for Rosie's highest ascension and deepest embodiment. And I get filled with life force energy, intuition, tones, all sorts of things, awarenesses that obviously support you in your highest ascension and deepest embodiment, but they somehow nourish me as well. You can't give something that you don't have. So I'm receiving to then give. Once we went into, I don't know if you remember like day 1 or day 2 or just like moments in it, what was something unexpected that was subconsciously in there that I didn't know was in there and you didn't know was in there, but needed to be felt or addressed so that the life you're living right now could be richer?
Mm. Yes. It took a while first because um, it took me a little while to connect with my body, and you kept bringing me back to my body and what was my body telling me,
Yes.
and so on. And that then, as I became aware that my body was holding a lot of things,
Yeah.
a lot of, I call them issues from my life, then they were able, I was able to start releasing them, I guess. It started to talk to me. I started to, when I say talk to me, it's just in dropping into what was happening in my body, it then triggered the similar feelings, which then actually brought to the surface a lot of what was unconscious.
Yeah.
And one of the ones, I know from time to time I feel a bit helpless.
Mm.
I shouldn't, but I just have this feeling of helplessness.
Mm.
I think I've got all the skills, I've
Mm.
got all the knowledge. I know I should, but I still feel helpless.
Mm.
And when that did come up, I'd smack myself down because, don't be so stupid, you're being lazy, you're lacking motivation, the judgment comes in. But what I now realise after what I felt during the session is there was a deep subconscious feeling of helplessness in me.
Yeah.
And it came about because I know it was when I was very young was the first time.
Yes. Yes.
And it was a feeling like I'm too little. I can't do anything to help.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't do anything about this.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I know what it might have related to, but I don't have a memory, but it makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so there was that feeling I could not do anything about what was going on.
Yes.
And so there would have been terror around that.
Yeah.
And so on. And so I'm thinking that had a lot to do with my disconnecting, because I have the ability when something awful is going down, I disconnect and I can do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it happens a lot in my work. You have to
Yeah.
disconnect from that and get on and function. But one of the times more recently, well, like in 2014, that I felt it was when my younger sister was dying.
Mm.
And that took some months, and to watch her deteriorate and not be able to speak.
Yeah.
So we could work out what she needed, other than guess or, whatever. But in order to function, to continue to visit her, to, support her husband
Yeah.
in, behind the scenes way, I disconnected. And it wasn't until 3 years later when I had pneumonia that I actually felt that I might have let loose some of the grief. I mean, I did her eulogy, and I think I did a really fantastic job of that. But and I thought that helped me a lot in dealing with it. But when it came up during the journey, that feeling of helplessness, the first time it came up was with her, and then it was when I was little, and then then it also shows up in my fears around certain things that I don't have enough knowledge about to deal with, like other people's medical condition close to me and things like that. So and that brought up a lot of tears and a lot of feeling. But one of the things leading up to that enabled me to do that was you picked for me how I would bypass those negative feelings. Like they'd come up, I'll call them negative, those feelings that are painful. They'd come up, and then you showed me that I quickly bypassed them by saying, oh, I'm feeling sad. Oh, but I really want to feel happy. So I go to the future about what I want to feel instead of actually allowing myself to feel that, because that's bad. I can't do that. I disconnect, and then I go into what I should be doing.
Right.
And so you did that a few times, and I thought, yeah, I actually do that.
Yeah.
And then when I would go into this, but I was able to stay more present with that. And it was when that particular feeling or memory of feeling that really triggered deep sadness, deep regret, deep almost shame that I wasn't able to do that. But it very quickly then moved into something more creative. You know, when I say more creative, I felt it, and then we moved on, and no judgment. But how you guided me through that was very, very insightful.
Thank you. It's
if I could just interrupt, that insight would not, unless you're a psychic or something, that insight was the product, I think, of you knowing me from the work we'd been doing together. So you were very quickly, there wasn't a lot of experimentation. You were very quickly on where those points, you know, where my repetitions were, or where my, you know, where I was connecting, because you'd seen me do it before lots of times. So that then enabled you to go straight there.
Yep. You make a really good point. The beauty of doing, I work with people for a minimum of a year, and we do private coaching, and we meet weekly for the group coaching. You also have got your certification with the Allana Pratt method coaching. And then we moved into a PSI. I've watched these behaviors. I've watched where you sabotage yourself. I've watched where you disassociate. I've watched where you don't fully integrate something. And you weren't aware that it had to do with your sister passing. You weren't aware that you were a little one, unable to, feeling helpless, unable to support your family. And however, that was like lodged in your subconscious, and you just kept, the pattern just kept continuing, and not able to be as present with people you love in your life right now, or not as present with yourself, or what have you. So what a beautiful opportunity for me to go, oh, there it is. There it is. And to be able to say, let's inhibit that. Let's go back and feel that. And then everything, like dominoes, could integrate, collapse all the way back to a little one, so that now in the present moment, you can be with yourself, you can be with your loved ones. And that energy can come through you, as you just said, creatively. It's not like we just integrate the shame, the fear, the sadness, the terror, the panic, and then it's over. No, it's like alchemy. It turns into a superpower in the present moment. Like and you can't destroy or create energy. You can only change it. So that energy that we are integrating turns into something. And you became so poetic. You were rhyming, and your cadence and your rhythm and your body and your movement, and your body was talking to you. I want to be stronger in my feet, and I want to be more open here. Like, you just became alive, joyful, creative, empowered, like right in front of me. It was such a joy. What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I felt like I'd gone back to my childhood, in you know, not acting like a kid, but the
Innocence.
pleasures that you have as a child before you become constrained by other people's
Totally.
expectations or your own expectations. And things like, I don't regard myself as a good writer or, you know, poetic, but yet there. And I love rhyming. I love cadence. I love a rhythm. And I can always feel when something is discordant, a sound is discordant,
Yeah.
or visual things discordant. And I realized I'd been, I guess, inhibiting a lot of that,
Yeah.
inhibiting it, and with the self-editing and
Yeah.
all of that. And I also inhibited my sense of humor for many years. And as
Yeah.
I got more in touch with myself, the sense of humor comes out. And I think,
Yeah.
oh, okay, quite funny, really.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, but yeah, it was really quite joyful, and I
Mhm.
almost felt guilty at that point. People have a really hard time. I'm really enjoying this.
You were gonna, do you remember how you said, I should sell this little jingle to Taylor Swift? I should, do you
Yeah,
remember that?
I did too. Oh my God, I could sell this to David. And I picked her because of a demographic of the a group of the broad range of people that she appeals to.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know where that thought came from, but never
It
mind.
was hysterical. But you
Yeah.
were, Rosie, you were free. This editing piece is huge. And it's a wonderful superpower on the one side, because
Mm.
you're very successful at what you do professionally, but it's hindered this incredible humor and creativity and flow. Like, you have this way of like, oh, I could just put my flippers on and swim through life. I don't even need to use my hands to control things, control the outcome. They could just be down by my side, and I could lead with my heart, and I could just swim, and I'm looking at you and you're so free. And then we got on the inner circle call, and people who have known you for years and years said, Rosie, you're so soft, yet so strong. Like, they instantly noticed the difference in your beingness. How has it been? So it's been, I guess, a month.
Mm.
What's different? What's stayed? What's deepening?
Yeah. So life's still there. The
Yeah.
difficulties
Challenges
in
are
life
still
are
there.
still
Yeah.
there. Yeah. But what I realized, it was an incredible tool, because I now recognize, for example, if this feeling of helplessness comes up,
Right.
I now understand that's not really true in the moment.
Mm,
This is a practiced feeling that I've had, a
right.
subconscious feeling. So the PSI is a really powerful tool to raise your awareness, to enable you then to deal with these habitual things that aren't going to go away just with one magical treatment,
Right.
because they've been so much part of your life, or
For
my
decades.
life, so
Yeah.
long. So they'll
Yeah.
come up. And so it's given me this ability, this awareness, oh, that's what that is, and
Yeah.
to feel it. And then, I can see what might have triggered it and so on, and then get on. So what it does is it ups your level of healing,
Yeah.
but then you still need to do the work. Life is
Correct.
still there, but it
Correct.
gives you, if you really take it on, some people might not want to take it on, but if you really take it on, then it means that when these things come up,
Mm.
they become less and less and less powerful. The more I'm aware of them, the more I integrate them and deal with them. Right?
Yeah.
I'm pushing them away. I'm recognizing them. Sometimes I have to say, okay, look, I'll deal with you a little bit later. I'll put you
Right.
in this here and I'll bring it out a bit later.
Right.
But that's very different. And it's like, when I first did my had coaching many years ago, that it gave me a different experience in my life. This has given me a different experience in my life at a whole nother level,
Yeah.
because it's so much more. When I say three-dimensional, I mean I'm feeling. It's got the feeling part of it in,
Yes.
as
Yes.
well as the everything else, and more space for creativity. The more present I can be, the
Yeah.
more creative I can be. But
Totally.
the other thing, like all my life, I've thought that work had to be hard, and you
Right.
had really hard. And although I've heard it many times, I really didn't feel it for myself. But
Mm.
I felt in the session was hard work doesn't have to be hard. Work can be a joy. It
mm.
just depends on whether that work is aligned with you, and
Yep.
if you are required to do it at a time and it isn't aligned with you, but you're required to do it, well, you do become present, and you do then have a way. Well, for me, I'm changing the way I feel about it,
Yeah.
and so I'm making it less hard. You know.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so it's this taking the friction away and allowing it to flow,
Yeah.
be more smooth.
This is so good because what we do in these PSIs, because of the way the brain works, we have this neuroplasticity for 2 weeks after the session, where we're literally rewiring our brain and our body. So whatever happened when we were young, we became more anxious or more avoidant, or we had certain beliefs. And that is literally the point of view through which we look at life. And then life is like that. We get to rewire how we be with ourselves, secure attachment.
Mm,
We get to literally rewire how we look at life, that it
mm,
can be swimming in your flippers, more joyful. The very same effort can be joyful versus hard. So your future gets to be completely rewritten. And we were calling it your renaissance. Like, what
yeah.
if, I mean, you probably won't know it, but Rosie's in her early 70s and she does not look it. And I think this is going to be the most creative renaissance time in your life. When we were saying how, like, Georgia O'Keeffe or Toni Morrison, like, we're getting started.
Mm,
And
mm.
so you still have your same, dreams or visions, etc. Is it the how you're going to get there that feels different? Is there more of a certainty that you can? Is there more worth that you deserve? What would you say is the biggest difference as you're looking forward to the next several decades, because of not just because of the PSI, I guess from all the work we've been doing, but most
Yeah.
recently the PSI.
So I've realised that I've been around the block a few times at my age, and in that time I've acquired a lot of wisdom,
Yeah.
although I didn't recognise it as such, and I probably absorbed a lot of stuff that I didn't really um, process. And so in getting still and getting present, I realised that I can just let all those years just come from within. All the knowledge, all the wisdom of those years come from
Yes.
within as and when needed.
Yes.
So where I got to was, it was about letting go
Yeah.
the identities
Yeah.
and just be.
Yeah.
So it's being, and
Yeah.
then let the wisdom come from me.
Yes.
So that's what, and then from there, I can be as creative as I want to be. I can
Yes.
be as clever as I want to be, or I can be as, musical as I want to be. I mean, they're possibilities, but
Yeah.
my possibilities.
Yeah.
Um, but it means then that when I've replaced these parts, I've got to replace. But
Harmony.
whatever I choose to do, I can apply myself and do it.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about doing stuff without skills. I've got a lot of skills that I've acquired over the years. There's all those that are in me, and there's lots of new ones I can acquire in the time.
Yes.
So,
Mm.
who knows? But certainly there's a lot more. When I say, optimism, and I'm less attached to it has to be a success. It will be a success, but I'm less attached to it.
Nice.
And I think I'm now more ready to make mistakes, or not be perfect. But
Nice.
anyway, what is perfect? In whose eyes is perfect? Perfect, you know.
Right. Wow.
Um, mm,
What would you say to women, men who have listened to this and they're like, "Oh, I'm just too old for that," or "It's too late," or I don't know. What would you say to them about this journey with our community? coaching, not necessarily having to be an Allana Pratt method coach, but maybe this PSI work, what would you say? What do you want to say to them?
Um, it's not too late, and when you're able to become present, there's no time constraint in that because you're present.
Yeah, everything is right here.
Yes, and when I say miracles, things that you think you're no longer capable of, and I'm not, there are, of course, physical things you're not capable of because of your age and your body, but I'm talking about creative things or your mind. If you can become present and declutter it of all the things that you pushed in to that drawer that's your mind, and you declutter it, you always make more space for new things. You know, when you tidy up a drawer, you pull it all out, stuff like that, and then you tidy it up and you think, oh my God, there's a lot of room there. How was there not so much room? It's because it was messy and cluttered, and when you've got rid of stuff and there's more order, more presence, more space. And I think as we get rid of all these stories that we've accumulated over the years that don't serve us, we have space for the new, for the creative, and probably for the stuff we wanted to express since we were kids, but took paths and they've remained unexpressed.
Yeah. Thank you. More space for the divine creativity, truth, to come in as and through you, which looks like radiance, feels like, I don't know, confidence, aliveness. It also feels like enoughness, just as I am. And to me, it attracts, it's more comfortable to be with us because we're not so jittery. We're here. We're more welcoming.
Yeah, I've noticed. I know some people have had a lot of work done to their face, and their face looks young. And yet when you see them move, they move like old people.
Right.
And so, in what we do, we're creating space for a youthfulness to come from within.
Yes.
And it's quite interesting. It doesn't matter what lines you have. If you've got that youthfulness that comes from within and you actually move with energy.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean you run a million miles, but I mean just the subtle movements with energy and with power and strength. That takes years away from you.
Totally.
And you can be next to this person with the most amazing wrinkle-free face, but you can have more life and vibrancy with your wrinkles and with everything because the work's from within.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when it feels like the word renaissance came for you. Like Rosie's a renaissance. Like I wonder what this fluidity and this softness, but so much more certainty and strength and unattachment and delight. The whole community is just so happy for you. And you're inspiring them so much. Thank you, honey, for taking this time. I need to come back to Australia soon. I miss you so much.
No, it was fun having you in this time zone.
Yes, I'm sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say I'm sorry you had so many difficulties getting there. I'm saying I'm glad you did. Look what it did for you.
It was a lesson. It was, I'm always growing and learning. It certainly was. But thank you for being so good to me when I got there and taking care of me too. I remember after the first night, I didn't have the energy to make dinner, and I normally like to take care of you, and you took care of me, and I really appreciate you. Yeah.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure because I enjoy putting together food.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for going on this journey. Thank you for being such a contribution to this community. And thank you for being such a bright, shining light in your world, of all the people that you you come into contact with your beloved and your nieces and your clients. And I really, even though you haven't met them fully yet, you're not fully out of this one vocation into the next one. Thank you for the clients that you're going to be there for, and you'll be present with them. And you'll have compassion, the embodiment of it, the depth of your listening, and the true embodiment that anything's possible. They're not their beliefs. There is a deeper truth and wisdom inside them. Thank you for someone. I mean, I've gone through 2 divorces, the mediation that you'll be able to be. Yes, you're very skilled, but just being in your presence, Rosie, is going to be such a gift to so many people when they really need someone that they can count on and trust. So thank you. I love you. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you do.
I love it. I love it. And I love you. So thank you for those of you that have been with us listening or watching this radiant Rosie. If this journey is something that is like, yeah, I'd like to learn more. I'd like to learn more. On my site is something called an intimacy breakthrough experience. It's a way to connect with me one-on-one, and it's a way for us to discover if we're a fit. You'll get great value no matter what we decide to do together. But I hope this conversation with Rosie today gives you a sense of what it's like to do this work, maybe all the way to a PSI, in a beautiful community where you're safe, you're never judged, and you're celebrated for your radiance. So, my love, what are your last thoughts from your beautiful heart to our listeners and our viewers?
Let go and be, and let the wisdom come from within you. If it was me, it would be from me.
Yes, absolutely. It's in there. And thank you for doing the work to excavate everything in the way of it just arising so beautifully and naturally. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love you so much, honey. Thank you for being with us.
Bye-bye. Bye.
See you next week on Intimate Conversations. Get out there and make love to life.
I think one of the most profound things that Rosie shared with us in that podcast was when she was a very little girl. She doesn't even need to know exactly what the situation was, but she was able to tap into a time when she felt so helpless. As a little girl wanting to help, fix, change, support. And she couldn't, she was just little. I cannot tell you how many coaching sessions and PSI sessions we get to that root core wound when we were little. And we were either, unfortunately, projected onto that it was all our fault, or we made it up that it was all our fault. But that goes into our subconscious. And we always think we're not good enough. We always think we're helpless. We always think we can't change things. We always think we messed up. We must somehow fundamentally be broken, wrong. And for her, in her early 70s, to understand why, when her sister passed away, she felt so helpless and couldn't even cry for 3 years because she just needed to keep it together for everybody. That's so much of what we have to deal with when we're kids. We just have to keep it together. And there's nobody there to facilitate the integration of our emotions when we're 4, most of the time. And so that stays held in our subconscious for decades. And it affects the way we're unable, as she so brilliantly said, be stillness itself, be presence itself when it matters. And then, as an adult, when we do that, then we beat ourselves up even more, and it compounds the issue. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to facilitate, and I've gone through these journeys myself, facilitate the healing of that little one, that it wasn't her fault, that she did her best, that of course she had every right to feel helpless when, got a bug on my back, when she was little and she wanted to help, but she couldn't. So to set herself free of that and all that held energy, and to forgive herself that she did her best when her sister passed away, and then in the present moment, how she's able to be so much more present with those she loves. What a gift. One moment holds eternity. when we're completely present with ourself, the divine, our body, another. And to be that present for another and not fix them, change them, leave, try to make it all better, say it's going to be fine, avoid, try to fix, whatever. Just to be with another. Oh, and see them and understand them and get them. Is there any greater gift? Just to drink them in exactly as they are and exactly as they're not and love them. Yeah, that's what she's even more capable of being and doing for herself and for the people she loves in her life. And that's what's possible for you too. So if there's something where I think I need to paddle a bit, I'm gonna hit a boat. If there's something where you have a behavior where you have the best of intentions, but you just can't seem to change a pattern, where you know cognitively you're a badass, but there's moments on a regular basis where you still feel like a mess, or like, why am I still so insecure, or why do I feel helpless, or why do I feel not enough, or why do I still feel like it's all my fault, or why do I keep attracting people that blame me for things? Maybe it's because subconsciously you're blaming you. And when we do this work and get to the core and resolve it, you stop feeling that way with yourself. But you also stop attracting people and situations that confirm that subconscious belief. And you're free. You're free. You're free to, as Rosie was saying, be creative, be innovative, be more alive, be more in the flow, be healthier, more flow of magic and joy and orgasmicness and possibility. So connect with me if this resonates with you. It is the greatest honor and privilege to walk with you. And I love you, Rosie. Thank you for watching this episode of Intimate Conversations and allowing me to love the shit out of you.